Well, hey there, it's great to see you. Welcome into the WTOL 11 Weather Hangout. I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Vickers, joined by meteorologist Matt Willoughby and meteorologist John Birchfield. And guys, seems like we're just diving headfirst right into the fall season. How about this, Matt?
Yeah, great to be here. Hard to believe it's already late October. We've had some ups and downs in the weather, and we're going to be talking about all of those crazy things that we've seen, from snowflakes to the leaves falling and extremes across much of the country.
Yeah, it's been an insane week of weather, even this past weekend, especially this week where, it was pretty brutal cold for me, to say the least. I mean, it's all right. I'm starting to get used to it.
We had to break the four-letter word out.
Yeah.
As in snow for the first time this year. Really wasn't anything widespread for us, but this is a time of the year we see the seasonal transition, so we're just trying to savor as much of it as we can. John, I know, shout out to you, people that follow you on social media. You've got a big race that's coming up. How do the legs feel right now as you're kind of training for yet another run?
Well, you know, you got to make sure you warm up properly with this cold weather, but we make the most of it and really just embrace the Midwest here, because we can't control the weather. All we can do is control our attitude. So try to be positive even when it is cold and windy and nasty outside.
You've just filled my glass halfway up, John. I appreciate that. Matt, we're going to check in on your checklist in a little bit here.
Yes.
Yep.
I hope you haven't let us down on this.
We'll see.
I've heard he's been busy this week, making some progress.
Busy, so we'll see that in a little bit.
Boy, speaking of letting us down, if you've kind of followed the weather headlines, can you guys believe this? We've already had snow, and not just snow, accumulating snow across parts of the Midwest and the Great Lakes. And boy, is it beginning to look a lot like winter in parts of the Midwest. In fact, some communities, especially up in Michigan, they got their first accumulating snow. Can you believe this?
Wow, those are those heavy wet flakes too. That's a Christmas snow, and it's only October.
Oh, I am not ready for that. I'm sorry.
Too soon, Matt?
Anybody ready for Christmas music? Can we cue the Christmas music?
I think
it's beginning to look.
No, too soon for that. Yeah, so this was some of the snow falling across central northern Michigan into the UP. And boy, they really have the snow shovels out. In fact, if you take a look at the current graphic right now, we actually have snow on the ground up across parts of the UP, and those snow accumulations that did come down were quite intense. Look at toward Marquette. There was a reported 18 inches of snow, an October snow record. In fact, if we look at the greatest snowfall for Marquette, this wasn't even close, guys. As far as the month of October, we could actually say that this was the greatest early season snowfall ever on record up toward Marquette, topping 18 inches over a 2-day period. So it does beg the question, do we get snow in Toledo in October? A little bit.
We try to forget about it, but yes, we do.
Hopefully, I don't want to see any snow in October. For me, it's way too soon. I'm already kind of freezing a little bit with these 40s this week. So a little cold for me.
Our greatest October snow in our recorded history was back in 1992. 2 inches of snow is what we saw. 1925 had just over an inch, and the only other time that we had an inch or more of snow in October at one particular time was 1989. Yes, we can get snow. Doesn't stick around long this time of the year, and we're ready to save that for winter now, and let's enjoy fall.
Exactly.
Enjoy fall while it lasts. Yep.
Have you been enjoying fall is the question.
Okay, I can't lie.
That will be.
Yes, I have. This is probably the best weekend. And the weather was perfect.
Oh, yeah.
I did get some things checked off. So what I had already was the high school football, but I was able to get the pumpkin patch checked off, cider mill checked off, apple picking, and I even went to play in the little fall of leaves park out in Oregon. So
now, pictures or it didn't happen, sir?
Okay, I got it.
I need to photo
Here we
proof.
are, apple picking, and weirdly enough, that was my first time seeing an apple tree, and the apples are a lot bigger than I thought they are when they are on the tree.
You know, you had an unfair advantage. As you see, you can reach higher up into the tree, and you can get that golden, delicious, Honeycrisp apple. Did you come away with a favorite type of apple?
I think you just said it. Honeycrisp, that was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The sweetness of it. I didn't even honestly know there was different types of apples until.
John?
Oh, yeah. Honeycrisp are great. They've got the texture, the sweetness. They've got it all. It depends on the application. You know, if you're cooking with it, you want a little bit of a different, and you don't mind if they're a little softer, but just eating straight up Honeycrisp is about as good as it gets. Red Delicious, Golden Delicious. Pink Lady is another one that's a little more low-key, but that's a good one. There's so many varieties, Matt.
If somebody can direct me where to find Empire apples, I need to know where to find Empire apples. So I'm going to go search at some of our local apple farms and see if we could come away with that. Well, it looks like you're enjoying your fall season.
Yes.
We are enjoying this. Of course, we appreciate everyone joining us as you may be watching on YouTube or on any of our streaming platforms, WTOL 11+. We look to have fun, dive a little bit deeper into some of our weather topics. We got plenty more coming up. But take a look at this weather fact. about early season snow and see if you could come back with the correct answer.
Well, November 17th, hope you got the answer at least close. We're still about a month away from our first normal measurable snowfall of the season. Of course, October snow not out of the question, but it is certainly out of the ordinary. Now, we've been talking about some falling snowflakes, but that's not the only thing falling from the sky. Also starting to see some of those leaves begin to fall. If you haven't been outside much lately, we are at the peak of fall foliage, and it's not going to last much longer. Typically, it is mid to late October that we see that peak color, and it's going to be ending soon before you know it. Hope you've gotten to enjoy some of the vibrant colors across the 419. Wanted to share a few pictures as we recap the fall foliage season and forecast what the next few weeks have in store. This is some of the early season color that was pictured along the Maumee River. We had some of those reds there, of course, the golds and the yellows, one of my favorite colors personally, and still a little bit of green on the trees, but you will notice within the next week that will all transition to those vibrant colors. Here's another photo, some of the early season colors. A lot of times those yellows are the first colors that really start to transition before we get into the full fruition of fall colors. Some of those trees have multicolors, which is really neat to see, those iridescent trees that bring the fall foliage and get you in that fall spirit for sure. So when do we typically reach peak fall color? We are in the heart of the season right now. That started days ago. In fact, October 14th is normally when northern Ohio begins to see the peak of fall color season. It's going to be lasting just a few more days through the 24th. So if you haven't gotten outside quite enough through the weekend, you've got a few more days to enjoy the peak of fall colors. Now, we're going to be talking in just a minute about how some of our recent weather may be playing a role in the end of the peak of fall season. Central Ohio, it's typically the 18th through the 28th of October to enjoy the peak of fall color. And southern Ohio, due to the slightly warmer climate, those colors are going to stick around through Halloween, if not a couple days later. Now, this week we've had an unusual weather pattern. We had that November-like chill early on in the week. Of course, we got some chilly raindrops and also some wind, and parts of northern Ohio even saw the first flakes of the season. Now, that wind was really vicious at times coming out of the west, and it caused many of those leaves to fall off the trees. This weekend, raking might be on your to-do list due to the strong winds and the rain, which helped knock off some of those peak colors. Now, the snow also playing a role in certainly kickstarting that transition from fall into winter. Saw some accumulating snow along the snow belt region in far eastern Ohio into Pennsylvania, where they typically see a little more snow than us. And that northwest wind, we turned on the lake effect snow machine, and a lot of the Great Lakes region saw their first accumulation of the year. Of course, as we pointed out earlier, the UP was the big winner, if you decide that's a winner, with a foot of snow accumulating in the upper peninsula of Michigan. Here's a look at those snowfall totals. Areas like Marquette, Michigan, that bright red and purple color, that shows you where over a foot of snow fell. Hard to imagine that kind of snow accumulation in October. So where do we stand as far as snowfall across the Midwest? Well, the Buckeye State is generally snow-free, with those heavier amounts across the UP of Michigan and also southern Canada. That snow belt region near Erie, PA got a little bit of snow, and also some of the higher elevations in West Virginia and Pennsylvania saw a little bit of snow accumulation as well. Far eastern Ohio saw a trace to a dusting of snow. You're looking to the south of Cleveland there into parts of the higher altitudes where they get snow a little bit more readily. Enjoy that peak fall color. This weekend will be a good chance to perhaps rake some of those leaves with temperatures warming up into the 70s, and we've only got a few days left of the peak of fall color. Before our next segment, want to send you off with another weather quiz question. We'll leave you a couple seconds to answer and see you on the other side.
Well, one thing we have definitely focused on throughout the U.S. is weather around the U.S. One phenomenon that we've been monitoring over the last couple of weeks is how low the Mississippi River levels have been, and especially how less of rainfall those areas and those cities and towns around the Mississippi River have pretty much gotten that less rainfall. So these are pretty much rainfall totals for the entire month so far, all the way stretching down from Minneapolis all the way down to New Orleans. And pretty much every single city along this path has seen under an inch of rain for the entire month. So it has been pretty much dry bone, which has caused some problems for the Mississippi River. So speaking of that, just out into Memphis. Now what these mean, this is pretty much the negative range of those water levels. So just into pretty much negative 10 inches was the original record in 1988, but that was actually broken just yesterday, that is, around negative 10 inches. So possibly we'll see even more of those water levels decrease as we go throughout the next couple of weeks even. So checking out that water levels at Memphis, normal usually around 4 feet of water just in the Mississippi River at Memphis, Tennessee. But now, like I said, under 10 feet, an old record just around under 10 feet as well. So with this can cause problems as far as agriculture and even for those transportation as far as the Mississippi River going up and down all the way from the mouth of the Mississippi all the way up into Minneapolis. So likely river levels could be forecasted until 2024. So it may be until 2024 until we see those river levels come back to normal. But you're probably wondering, what does the negative numbers mean? Well, we got meteorologist Chris Vickers to break that down and what exactly that is as far as those river levels.
I had to wrap my head around this one for a moment too, Matt, because how do you talk about a negative river level? Well, there's a pretty basic explanation to this, and what Matt put into perspective, either way you look at it, the water levels in the Mississippi River are extremely low, which is disrupting a lot of travel, traffic, and of course this is the harvest season with a lot of grain boats and barges trying to go up and down the Mississippi River rather. There's going to be issues because they're kind of running aground. So here's how a negative river level actually happens. So we've got an average river level, which over the course of the year, it's the average between the height of the water, but we've set constant levels of where the riverbed at least was at one point. So we put that mark at 0 and consider that our constant river level. Now over time, of course, that bed of the river actually does change, and it changes due to the erosion that occurs from the river channel or perhaps from dredging. So over time, that riverbed actually decreases over time, and the depth of that river channel can deepen. But we've got to have a mark to kind of make this equal over time. So we keep that constant level at 0. Now, in periods like this where things turn abnormally dry, not only do we go from our average river level, we can fall below that constant level where that initial riverbed was, and that is currently where we are right now, a negative river level. And as meteorologist Matt Willoughby pointed out, over 10 feet below that constant level is where some of the water levels are in and around Memphis, Tennessee on the Mississippi River. Obviously causing problems and something that may not be a long-term or a quick solution in the very near future. Part of the reason why we've got excessive drought in and around Memphis, there's the Mississippi River. We've got severe to exceptional or extreme drought. And if we take the whole Mississippi River basin into perspective, over 90% of this river basin is in some sort of abnormally dry or drought conditions. May not be a quick solution to this, and we'll continue to monitor that as we go through the coming weeks and months. We're going to leave you with one more quick weather fun fact. We'll see if we can get the answer, and we'll come back with a little fun on the other side of this break. Have you been able to wrap your head around a negative river level quite yet?
No, I haven't. I mean, we were just talking about this earlier this week. I was like, man, like to see some of those pictures is just insane to see a dry Mississippi River. I've been around the Mississippi River pretty much all my life. So to see that, I've never seen that in my lifetime.
Well, speaking of that, let's help you visualize this. Due to the drought, and Matt, this is right in around Baton Rouge.
Yes.
John, have you seen this video yet? Watch this. A shipwreck was actually discovered along the banks of the Mississippi River. Matt, this is right in around Baton Rouge. Do you know exactly about where this is?
Oh yeah, that's exactly downtown, right along pretty much where the Mississippi River Bridge crosses over into pretty much the other part of Louisiana, just into some other cities. So it's kind of like that signal or that symbol for the Mississippi River in Baton Rouge.
So the low river levels actually dug up a piece of history that had been undercover for centuries almost. The ship is a ferry that sunk in the late 1800s and early 1900s. And it's because of those low river levels that we're able to discover that, but certainly does not look like the Maumee River that you typically imagine, does it?
Oh, no, not at all. So yeah, definitely going to be some recovery as far as the Mississippi River to get those water levels back to normal. So some
Look
of
at
those
the people just kind of standing up on the banks too as well. They're trying to get a firsthand view of what's actually going on, and it does look like that this is not going to be anything that's going to be solved anytime soon as we go into what is generally speaking a drier season through autumn and into the winter season ahead. So it could be sometime 2023 or 2024 before those conditions improve. You guys ready to have a little bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting into the end of October coming up here, and you know, typically within a reasonable amount of accuracy, you see a 7 to 10 day forecast. We're still a little bit beyond that for Halloween and trick or treat, but how about a little fun with what we call a forecast of doom for our Halloween season. Who's up for the challenge?
Scary.
So we want to kind of try to prepare you. Obviously, we use a little bit of science when we're forecasting weather in general, but we're still about a week and a half to 2 weeks away. What are we thinking with the weather patterns? Because they've been all over the place over the past couple of weeks. What are we looking at for the end of October? And can we actually maybe try to nail a high temperature out there of what we're expecting for the Halloween season? So we need a little bit of an audience, I think, to get this going, and we need to bring out some of our ghouls and goblins. And look at this.
Are we going to dance along with them?
I don't know if they want us
They got
to.
good moves, though.
They do have good moves.
I've got to ask, Matt, how often have you been compared to a taller version of, look at that little Frankenstein.
Oh, the music,
right
too.
He's rocking it out.
He is rocking it out. So they're here to kind of cheer us on right now. John, what's one thing that you, before you give your prediction, what's one thing that you've kind of been looking at through October and you're expecting to kind of lead weather-wise through the end of this month?
Well, at least this weekend and beyond, we are expecting the weather pattern to do a 180, and this is fairly common this time of year. Over the last few weeks, the Pacific Northwest of the U.S. has gotten really warm weather, and we've gotten some chilly weather and a taste of winter. That's going to flip-flop at least this weekend. Will it last through Halloween? Time will tell, but at least through this weekend, we're going to get some temperatures in the 70s. That'll be nice. It'll be pretty nice if that continues through Halloween.
All right, so I'll go on record first. All right, I do expect that this warm weather we're getting this weekend not going to last all of next week. Now, average highs by the end of October, typically in the upper 50s. Who is that creepy voice that we hear?
Oh.
Upper 50s is what we get by the end of October. I'm expecting, just based on some of the trends that John said, we're going to be a little bit above average. My forecast of doom is going to be lower 60s for Halloween Day itself.
Okay.
That'd be pretty nice for
It
trick-or-treating.
would be pretty nice. Matt, you're next up.
Okay,
Put you on the
yeah.
spot.
So I did the numbers. I did my research a little bit, and I was thinking, okay, what's the usually average? So I went with around 53. So I think it will be a little colder, but not too cold.
Okay, colder than average. John, you going to round us out here?
Yeah, last but not least, I'm just the optimist here. I'm hoping that this weather pattern will continue into the latter half of October. Of course, not expecting 70s for Halloween, but will we be dancing for joy when we see that forecast?
Let's hear it, John.
If my forecast comes true, I think you will be. We'll be close to 70 degrees, forecasting down there 67.
Ooh.
Yeah, that would be
Coming in
nice.
hot.
That would be nice. Literally coming in hot. I don't think we'll be at 70, but above average for sure.
Boogie on with that, John.
Yeah.
We'll check in next week. We'll see how these predictions may be changing. Matt, glad you got your checklist really almost wrapped up for the fall season.
Got one more thing.
You got one more thing?
Corn maze.
The corn maze.
Still terrified of it, but we're gonna try.
You know, if you want to go on out to Halloweekends at Cedar Point, you can do corn stalkers. It's a haunted corn maze. I'm sure there's plenty of other great ones. Hey, you gotta have a little fun with it.
Yeah, you got to.
Matt, you can take Frankenstein and the Mummy with you.
Yeah, I'll take them with me.
Yeah, they'll go with
some dance moves.
You tower over Frankenstein. How could you be afraid of him?
I don't know. Hopefully he'll not make me scared.
All right, another fun and successful version of this WTOL Weather Hangout. We appreciate you for joining us. Of course, if you're checking in on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so you get continued updates. Or if you're catching us here on WTOL 11 Plus, our exclusive free streaming service, we appreciate that. And we appreciate you joining us this week with our little too early forecast of doom for Halloween. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.